You've probably noticed there are some big changes going on with SEO, right? And I'm talking about the big drop-off between impressions and clicks, which over the last 6 months has got more and more pronounced. Here's a fairly average example where we can see back in the middle of 2024, clicks were outpacing impressions every day. That's typical of a website that's ranking high, where someone's searching for solutions, they see the result and they click on it. However, what we can see more recently is the purple line of impressions has actually overtaken the clicks. And we're actually seeing an increasing number of impressions while clicks seems relatively flat. That one might have been a bit vague, so here's a more concrete example for you, where we can see really clearly clicks ahead of impressions, 10,000 clicks per day, and yet where was the exact crossover? It was in April of this year. Suddenly, impressions takes over and clicks are indeed falling. One more example here for you from a smaller client where clicks have been fairly stable but impressions have just gone up and up. And in this case it was the end of August last year that started that big disconnect. Well, in today's video I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on, why you should worry about it and what to actually do about it. But first, before we go on, if you are feeling stuck in your strategy, if you're just wondering if there's some sort of hidden trick, have you missed something? Is there something else you should be doing? Wouldn't it be great to just get a third set of eyes with 10 years of experience just to go over your website and make sure you're doing everything right? Often it can be a very small thing that's costing you tens of thousands in revenue. In my career, I've seen the cost of inaction, the cost of ignorance, just overall opportunity cost is far more than the amount I've spent investing in coaching, consulting, getting expert help when I really need it. I used to balk at those kinds of fees, thinking I'm going to stay and figure it out on my own and save the money. But now every time, if I can spend 3 grand to save myself 10 grand, or unlock a new opportunity I didn't even know about, I'm going to go for that every single time. Back in the day, I sold one of my affiliate sites before I even knew about how link building worked, and I got a decent 43x multiplier on that online business. But every day I think about that pain, that if only I'd had the expertise I had now, if I'd known about how I could really have scaled that site with high quality link building, I could have made 10 times more money, because what I'd achieved was only a fraction of its overall potential. But the good news for you today is none of this needs to cost you anything, because we have a limited number of free strategy calls available. People drop into my inbox all the time wanting consulting, and I personally can't do all those calls. While still running my businesses, doing my YouTube channel, do everything that I do at scale for a large audience, I can't sit down with people one-to-one, but I have now trained my elite team, so they are now available with my insights, my strategies, and my oversight to go through your website in detail and give you a clear strategy and roadmap of how to succeed. So if that is appealing to you, then click the link below and apply for a free strategy call. It's as simple as filling in the form. There's no cost to it. You have nothing to lose. But now let's get back to this idea of the clicks versus impressions drop off. And the basic answer here is that Google's moving more and more towards satisfying far more queries on the actual search results. We've had this for years with feature snippets, people also ask, but over time it's just got worse and worse. But it's not the end of the world, there's still some hope here. And not just hope, but a big opportunity. And that's because you're probably going to be finding that your actual sales and conversions are not really suffering as a result of this change. Because typically a lot of these queries that are satisfied by the actual search results page tend to be top of funnel informational queries, which means they were unlikely to buy from you in the first place. I've been saying this for years. There's been a lot of misinformation out there that you should just publish hundreds or even thousands of pages just to get as many people as possible onto your website, in the hope that they're then going to join your funnel and eventually they'll buy from you. But having tested again and again, I absolutely dispute that. There's always going to be exceptions, I'm sure, depending on the niche. Sometimes it can work. But in my experience, people just searching for information are not really verified buyers. You can get so much more results, so much more return by simply doubling, tripling down on your true commercial terms, your bottom of funnel intent, where people know they want your product, they search for your product and they buy your product, not some unrelated question that maybe in 2 years' time they might actually then be in your market. But this has been a trend for years. And people do get into the realm of topical authority, where you basically want to cover every question in your niche. And there is a degree of merit to that. There is this idea that if you complete your topical map, you actually fulfill Google's knowledge graph, tick all those boxes and prove that you're the ultimate authority on a particular subject, then those core commercial pages should rank higher. But to do that involves being quite precise and targeted, and understanding how Google's knowledge graph works, basically addressing the who, what, whys, and hows all to do around your product and niche, rather than just going onto Ahrefs and exporting the whole list of every single question related to a certain topic. Now, easily the most famous example of this is HubSpot, and this was so much of their brand. They basically tried to rebrand SEO as their own proprietary inbound marketing. Nothing wrong with that, that's just smart marketing. Copywriters talk about this idea of having a mechanism where rather than being a commodity and doing the same thing as all your competitors, you want to take what you do, which is going to have it unique in its own way and have its own slight variations, and give it a name. So in the case of HubSpot, that was just taking basically SEO and lead gen funnels and turning that into inbound marketing. In my case, years ago, when I specialized in SEO for high ticket coaches, I didn't call it SEO for coaches, I called it the power lever method. Hence my first book and my agency were all called the power lever method. Anyway, I digress. HubSpot was all about writing thousands of pages, to the extent they were even talking about emoji meanings or cover letter examples. I've not even checked these, but I can remember these examples from looking at their traffic, in the hope that if you're getting millions and millions of visitors a month, which they were, look at this, 12 million visitors per month, then obviously a fraction of a percent are still going to be interested in buying from you. But then what happened, quite famously, we've seen declining traffic ever since January 2024, and slowly we've seen that disappearing until finally in December 2024, we see this massive drop off. So now the traffic's down to around 4 million. Still really impressive traffic numbers, but we can see two things here. Both users and indeed Google is not really interested in this random informational content anymore. If people can just grab it from an AI overview at the top, or a carousel, something like that, then there's no need to click through to your website. Now here's an example of my own career when I worked with a UK insurance company, and we had great results in certain insurance products, but they always wanted to crack pet insurance. And while other forms of insurance had all kinds of wonderful niche names and different cases that we could squarely target, pet insurance really didn't have that. It's cat insurance, it's dog insurance, and mostly pet insurance. There's not many keywords to target. But they weren't prepared to invest in link building to try and compete in those type markets. So the next best thing we could do was try and go up the funnel, and let's just try and target pet owners with low competition stuff. So we published hundreds of articles on things dogs and cats can and can't do, and general advice for pet owners, all with calls to action saying, make sure to get pet insurance. So we saw this amazing traffic graph, but I do not recall a single sale being tracked to any of this. I'm sure it happened at some point, but despite going from around 4,000 visitors a month to 24,000 visitors a month, there was no significant increase in revenue. In fact, this company was actually making the same, if not more money back here when it was only getting a few thousand visitors per month, because although those key commercial terms were quite low volume, they were very high value. So one way I like to check in with this is looking at organic traffic value. And so you can see, fair enough, traffic value did go up as the overall traffic increased, but you can see it was already really high before. So while the traffic in volume has gone from 4,000 to 25,000, the value of that traffic has only really gone from 11,000 to 17,000. So very interesting point there. And again, we can see this decline over the last couple of years following the helpful content update. Informational content is not as valuable anymore. And so we can see their traffic levels now are roughly in line with where they were back in 2021, now that that high volume content is no longer performing as well. But also notice the traffic value has dropped, so from 12,000 to now around 6,000 or 7,000. So traffic value is halved, and that's because they're not ranking so well for those core commercial terms. And the reason for that is basically they got overconfident. We're having these big wins ranking really well for these core commercial terms. They did then invest in link building, but then eventually they stopped that link building. And they were thinking, we're number one, we're in the top 3. We're spending on link building, but we're not actually increasing our revenue. But what they didn't understand was they were actually protecting their market share there. And it was the link building that was maintaining their positions. So instead they pull the spend and great, we're saving a few $1,000s a month. But then they start slipping for those core commercial terms. And they no longer rank as well. And what that causes is a disconnect where if you're in a competitive market, if your competitors are building 10, 20, 30 backlinks per month, and you're keeping up by building 10, 20, 30 links per month, if you then stop and then you wait a year, and then your positions drop, not only are you making less money, but your competitors are now significantly ahead of you. They've grown this big margin in the link gap. So you need to protect yourself from that link gap. Start link building early on, build up gradually, but then maintain it. Don't just shut it off. On that note, if you want to turbocharge your link building success, then you need my free link building SOP, and you can get it absolutely free if you click the link below. There are multiple pillars to this document. The first is my in-house screening checklist, where we go through every single link we build to work out, is it a link that's going to bring maximum ROI to our projects? Is this the most powerful, the most valuable link we can actually build? Now, those are the big, high quality outreach links. But you don't have to start there. It's a really good foundation just to start off with the easy, cheap links. So citations, basic listings and business directories, and press releases. These are a great foundation. With my one-page websites, we're actually able to rank for a lot of these terms with nothing more than the foundations. So in this SOP document, we've got a list of 150 high authority citation sources, so you can go and grab those. And we also have my favorite press release providers. Different options whether you want to outsource entirely or just go direct to the cheapest option. I've said before, if you buy in bulk, you can get a press release for $7, and that gets distributed to 400 news websites. So those are all in the SOP as well. So fill in your details there and I'll send it straight to you. So in terms of what to do when you see this kind of impressions versus clicks drop off, really review your content, look at what's ranking, look at what's actually driving sales. Really double down on your core commercial keywords. My flagship one-page websites course, the whole point of one page is that you are so much better off just ranking for one really good keyword rather than trying to rank for hundreds of low-value keywords. So in this case, we find the right keyword, we find an exact match domain where the keyword is in that domain, so we get that benefit. We do a good quality page, we build backlinks to it, and I've done this hundreds of times, loads of students are getting great results. You absolutely can rank a single page cheaply and effectively that then gets very valuable traffic. But of course, it doesn't have to be one page, you can broaden it out. Some of the biggest success stories I've seen are when your core product actually has kind of different synonyms, different variations. Even though it's the same thing, you've got to give Google an easy way of accessing that. So if you've got one product that can be referred to in 10 different ways, rank for all those 10 different ways with a page for each. So just focus on that small number of core commercial pages, use Surfer, use correlational tools, make sure they're the best that they can be, and then aggressively build backlinks to those pages. You're far better off spending on links rather than just churning out more content. And this is only increasing with the AI as more people are just blasting out all this AI content. Google's getting diluted. There's this information drain where even the AI models are now struggling to find unique training data, and it's all just commodified. Content for the sake of content doesn't work. It kind of worked before, it doesn't work anymore. So your unique advantage is whatever the product or service that you can fulfill. The content is just the means by which you're able to actually satisfy the machine of Google that you are the ultimate provider of this product. So if you do that, you will succeed. Find those really good keywords that have a high CPC value that implies that people are actually converting on those, people are buying, that's why people are bidding on them with Google Ads. But rather than getting chained into Google Ads, which generally convert far less well than organic, you can be smart about it, build the right pages, build the right links, and build that true online real estate. And then whatever's going on with your impressions are irrelevant. Even the clicks are kind of irrelevant. It's all about the sales, it's all about the conversion.